From MTN News, you're watching Montana This Morning.
I'm MTN's Heaven Van, and it's a hot day here at the M Trail. And I'm seeing how people have come prepared to beat the heat.
The White House attempting to quiet concerns. I'm Jared Hill with a letter from the president's doctor that some hope will end questions about his health and fitness to serve.
I'm Jonathan Amberian in Helena. I'll have the latest on a lawsuit that seeks to throw out the district lines used to elect members of Montana's Public Service Commission.
Crews are already setting the stage for Butte's Montana Folk Festival. I'll tell you how it's going.
Alrighty, it is 6 o'clock on this Tuesday morning. Jay McDonald and Matt Elwell with you. Well, and speaking of the old Montana Folk Festival, there's a beautiful view of the mining city.
That's right.
Morning.
This is going to be a bustling area here very soon.
About 72 hours, it will be hopping over there.
That's right. Temperatures this morning a little warm, I would say. Most areas sitting into the 50s, 50 degrees in Butte, 52 in Belgrade, 39 in West Yellowstone. But the temperatures have come down a few degrees in parts of the area this morning so far since the show started an hour ago. Mainly clear skies. It's going to warm up in a hurry today. It looks like we're going to see daytime highs near 90 in Bozeman, Butte, and pretty much across the area. I'm going to break down that hour-by-hour forecast in a little more detail in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you very much, Matt. Now our top story this morning. The man killed in a 4th of July shootout with Yellowstone National Park Rangers was identified on Monday as Samson Lucas Baraya Fussner, who is 28 of Milton, Florida. That according to the Park County, Wyoming Coroner's Office. Fussner was shot and killed while wielding and making threats during an altercation with multiple rangers. One ranger was injured and transported to a local hospital. Authorities have not provided a condition update as of Monday, although the ranger was initially reported in stable condition. And stick with us, next half hour we have the latest information on that shootout, so stay with us. But in other news, Montana is about to jump into the frying pan. Temperatures will soar this week, and that could bring with it some health concerns. Our Heaven Van reports on how you can stay safe and avoid heat illness.
Trails like the M get plenty of foot traffic every day. And on hot days like today, we're seeing how people beat the heat.
We couldn't be out here like this in Texas, so even though it's warm for you guys, it still feels pretty good for us.
According to the CDC, extreme heat occurs when temperatures reach abnormal levels, putting people at risk of heat exhaustion or stroke. MTN meteorologists predict that Bozeman could see record-breaking heat by this Wednesday. Here's what some recreationists say work for them in the heat.
Usually wearing like shorts, have a sun shirt, hat, sunglasses, and water. A lot of water.
Many other recreators agree. They say water is the way.
Extra water.
Yeah, water for the dog.
Take plenty of breaks
Water
in the shade.
You want to show them your water, Maddie? And what do you do when you get thirsty? There you go. We wear hats. We put on sunscreen before we left.
Well, I always bring plenty of water for me and Reggie. I'm pretty bad at wearing sunscreen. I could be better about that for sure.
According to the CDC, sunburns can significantly decrease the body's ability to release heat, and heat illness can strike quickly. So what do you do when you've got too much sun? How can you tell? Well, the CDC says symptoms can often begin as heat cramps, transitioning into heat exhaustion. Sufferers may feel dizzy, nauseous, and extremely thirsty. The CDC recommends getting into shade, removing unnecessary clothing, and sipping water. Recreationists say,
Stop, sit in the shade for a while and regroup. You can drink some water and get some snacks.
If not addressed, heat exhaustion can lead to heat stroke, which officials say is a medical emergency. In cases like this, the CDC says to soak skin with cool water, avoid chugging water, and call for help. For more information on the signs of heat illness, visit our website. In Bozeman, Heaven Van, MTN News.
And research shows that a child's body heats up faster than an adult's. And sadly, each year on average, 40 children a year die in hot cars. That's about one every 9 days. Scripps News correspondent Julie Martin delves into the issue.
That morning, I took our son to school, and my husband was supposed to take Fiona to daycare. I can still see her looking at me as they walked out the door. Hours later, my world ended.
Since 1990, over 1,000 children have died in hot cars. Almost every time, a loving parent unknowingly left the child in the back seat.
It's one of those things that nobody really believes could happen to them, because if you love your children, you think about them all the time. The idea of losing awareness that they're with you or forgetting about them is just impossible. And what we know after studying this issue for 30 years and working with families that it's happened to is that this can happen to even the most loving, responsible, educated, attentive parent.
A change in routine, lack of sleep, stress, and other distractions are just some of the reasons these tragedies happen. Actions tied to our two memory systems, which constantly compete for our attention.
It doesn't have to be a huge change in routine. It could be something as little as, getting a phone call in the car or taking a detour, different route to work.
For the past 2 decades, Kids in Car Safety has pushed Congress to require automakers to install alert technology in new vehicles. But the fight drags on. There are some simple habits that can keep your child safe. Place the diaper bag in the front seat as a visual cue. Put a personal item in the back seat, like your employee ID badge or cell phone. Ask your child care provider to call you right away if your child isn't there.
All important things to keep in mind, especially in Montana while we're facing this current heat wave. Now on the national scene today, the world is watching Washington, where President Joe Biden is hosting the NATO summit. Later today, he'll give remarks at the event marking the alliance's 75th anniversary. It comes as the president is trying to put the debate over his debate performance 2 weeks ago to rest, telling members of his party that he is firmly committed to staying in the race. Meanwhile, former President Donald Trump is also back on the campaign trail later this evening as speculation grows over who he'll pick as his running mate. CBS News' Jared Hill has more from New York.
As the NATO summit kicks off today in Washington, President Joe Biden is working to end speculation over his health.
Has the president been treated for Parkinson's? No. Is he being treated for Parkinson's? No.
After declining to say why Dr. Kevin Kennard, a neurologist and Parkinson's specialist, had visited the White House 8 times in 8 months, last night, the president's personal physician sent a memo revealing Kennard had only examined Biden as part of his annual physical, adding the doctor also sees military personnel patients at the White House. This comes as the president himself has grown more defiant against calls from within the party that he drop out of the 2024 race.
We would be better off with another nominee.
If any of these guys don't think I should run against me, go ahead, announce for president. Challenge me at the convention.
Biden also picking up support from more progressive Dems.
The matter is closed. He is in this race, and I support him.
In a series of recent calls with donors and lawmakers, the president maintained he's still the best candidate to beat former President Donald Trump this November. Former President Trump holds his first campaign event in over a week later today, with speculation growing over who he'll pick for his vice president. Last night, he told Fox News he'll announce soon.
I haven't made final decision, but I have some ideas as to where we're going.
This ahead of next week's Republican convention in Milwaukee. Jared Hill, CBS News.
And back to this week's NATO summit, the president is set to have his first meeting with the new British Prime Minister on Wednesday. And on Thursday, another big test, with President Biden expected to hold his first solo news conference on U.S. soil in several months. Now back in some Treasure State headlines. For the second time since 2021, a lawsuit is challenging the district map for the officials who regulate utilities in Montana. This time, they're claiming the new lines were drawn for political benefit. MTN senior political reporter Jonathan Imberian has more on where that suit stands.
During the 2023 legislative session, the Montana legislature redrew the district lines used to elect 5 members of the Montana Public Service Commission. Plaintiffs are challenging that decision, saying it was based on partisan gerrymandering. The PSC districts hadn't been updated in almost 20 years when a federal court ruled in 2022 that they needed to be adjusted to make their populations more equal. That year's elections were conducted using a court-drawn map. In 2023, lawmakers came up with their own plan. It switched from dividing districts by county to using state legislative districts, and it split Montana's largest cities between 2 districts. The plaintiffs said the map was intended to ensure Republican dominance on the commission, and meant other voters didn't have a fair opportunity to influence election results. Lawmakers denied the map was an intentional gerrymander, and the state said there were legitimate interests behind it. Monday's hearing focused on whether the trial in this case should be before a jury. The state asked for a jury, saying it was appropriate for them to decide factual questions, like the intent of the legislation.
Even if the court said, okay, I'm not going to put that one to the jury, that one's for the judge, causation is clearly a fact issue. And whether there was other justification for it is clearly a fact issue.
Plaintiffs said there's no history of gerrymandering cases going before juries, and the questions at issue are more appropriate for a judge to decide.
The court is able to instruct the jury on what crosses the line into unlawful discrimination. There is no pattern here for instructing the jury on how much partisanship is permissible in a political gerrymandering case.
Regardless of whether a jury is called or not, the trial is scheduled to start December 10th. Judge Chris Abbott has said he hopes the case can be resolved in time for the next legislature to take action. 3 seats on the PSC are open in this year's elections, the first held under the new district lines. In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.
And things will be busy in downtown Bozeman this week, with the Music on Main event kicking off on Thursday for the 24th year. The fun is going to kick off at 6:30 until 8:30 with Tyler and the Train Robbers performing. The event is touted as family friendly with a kids zone featuring inflatables and other interactive activities. You can also grab a bite to eat from many rotating food vendors. On Friday, the 2024 Art Walk series continues with more than 40 businesses. It will feature local artists and often provide hors d'oeuvres and refreshments. You can check out the Downtown Bozeman website for more details. And speaking of a lot of fun happening in Montana, Butte's Montana Folk Festival gets started this Friday. And MTN's John Amy is checking in with local volunteers and crews setting up for the big 3-day music festival.
They're prepping the big stage at the original mine yard for Butte's Montana Folk Festival starting later this week. It's going to go from this to this.
We have 26 musicians and artists this year. It's going to be an incredible festival. It's probably the best lineup I've ever seen.
Hired crews and volunteers were busy setting up the tents and the stages throughout Uptown Butte for the free 3-day music festival running July 11th through the 13th. Many volunteers, like Peggy Probesco, have been involved in the festival since it first came to Butte in 2008.
Oh, I just love the festival so much. And so anything I can do to help set up, because then I don't feel guilty when I enjoy the 3 days.
Organizers are still looking for more volunteers to help sell and serve beer and work at information booths during the event.
We appreciate all our volunteers, past, present, and future. You know, if you've never done it before, now's the time to get involved.
The festival is expected to draw more than 100,000 people to Butte. Former state representative John Sesso was instrumental in getting the festival to Butte, and he says it's been a benefit to the city.
It's led to a lot of infrastructure improvements. A lot of sidewalks got put in, a lot of things happened to our mine yards to make them better.
People can sign up to volunteer at the festival's website, montanafolkfestival.com, and go to the application tab. In Butte, John Amy, MTN News.
It's always a fun time over in the
It really
mining
is.
city. I mean, this summer, always something going on over there. Fun time. Now, before we head into a break, Matt, across the pond, could you name me any member of Parliament?
Well, you snuck. No, I can't.
I couldn't either. I mean, but I think there's one that we can remember. Larry the cat.
That's a very memorable member.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mouser member.
This is the chief mouser for Parliament, and you know what? He has a pretty important job. He's got to keep all those rodents out of the street, out of the halls of Parliament. He's been there for 13 years,
Get
Matt.
out of here.
And
That's
then
awesome.
he has the press eating out of his paw. Look at
Yeah.
him. He has his own photo shooting press team walking
right.
him around.
He knows what he's doing.
I think so. He has seen quite a few prime ministers in his days, but they can't get rid of Larry. He is a key cornerstone of their local government over
I think that's
there.
fun.
I do too. He was brought in 13 years ago to help maintain the rodent problem, and he just stuck around, getting his good side over his shoulder. He's a very dramatic little cat.
Yeah.
And over on X, he actually has over 800,000 followers.
Oh
so
my goodness.
He's a big staple over there.
I
So
would say so.
now,
Larry the cat.
Now you know a member of Parliament, Larry.
I'll remember that
Larry,
one
the
too.
chief mouser. Time to take a quick break, but we're actually going to be talking about dogs instead of cats because, as everyone knows, dogs can truly become members of the family. And for veterans and their service dog, well, that bond could not be overstated. We're going to explore a new effort to get more service dogs partnered with veterans.